Let's move on to the next guy that we're talking about here, Ashton Jeanty from Boise State, 5'9", 215. He is heavier than Ollie Gordon. He is a bowling ball.
Yes.
He runs hard as hell. He is impossible to tackle. Quick background on a guy who is playing for a program in Idaho who, I hate to do this, and guys get mad at me, and I'm sorry, Boise State fans. He's just like Jahmyr Gibbs, where I wish he did what Jahmyr Gibbs did, because Jahmyr Gibbs transfers from Georgia Tech, goes to Alabama, and becomes a first-round pick. I don't know if GT could be hindered by that because he stayed at Boise State, but God, I wish I could have seen what he would have been like if he was playing running back at Georgia, or what's another team that needed a running back this offseason that maybe didn't get one? Like Ole Miss would have been really excited.
Bama, maybe?
No, Bama's recruited well because they've got.
And what has Georgia done? Well, Georgia hasn't recruited well at running back. I mean, they got running backs.
Not as good as Alabama. Who's the one cat that they've got?
They got Justice Haynes and Richard Young. Richard Young's the next guy too, as well. So
All right, background on GT.
So we actually have verified measurables on him, Joe. He's well liked by both the Blesto NFS services, right, that do spring grades. 5'8" and 2/8, so 5'8" and a quarter, and 217 pounds though. So not a little dude, short dude. Not a little dude. December.
That's the build I want.
December birthday. Yeah, sure. December birthday.
I don't even say that jokingly. If I was that jacked, I'd be so happy with myself.
Do you remember Doug Martin when he came out of Boise State? That is not a comparison because they are much different players, but they used to call him Muscle Hamster. And I feel like the same thing about Ashton Jeanty is that he is really strong and well built to the ground. He'll be 21 in December, so he's still 20 years old right now. Hometown originally actually was born and raised, I think, for a while in Jacksonville, Florida, which was where he was originally from. But he spent his high school years in Texas. So he played at Lone Star High School, was rated as a 4-star player by both 247 Sports and On3. But then obviously was a 3-star by the other two services, which is kind of an interesting note there. Played a lot, despite the fact that they had, what was that? George Halani, right? Was the running back that Boise State already had. He was a pretty good player, like a good college player.
I think he's on the Seahawks training camp roster
that sounds about right. So, I mean, he was a good college player. Despite that, Jeanty, true freshman season, ran for over 800 yards, became a guy that was a part of a two-headed monster. Then this year, actually, Halani was injured to begin the year. So it was the Ashton Jeanty show. And then when Halani got back, it kind of became a little bit of a two-headed monster. But he ran for over 1,300 yards this year, 14 touchdowns, averaged over 6 yards a carry. Also had, Joe, impressive receiving line, 43 catches this past year for 569 yards and 5 touchdowns. So this was a dual threat running back, running game, passing game, had a ton of production this past year for Boise.
So talk about a guy who can create in space. I think you just hit the nail on the head where they're throwing him passes out of the backfield. He's snagging them out of the air, and he is just making dudes look silly. I think what makes him great is the physicality paired with the quick feet, the easy cuts. He gets to really easy acceleration, gets up the top speed very, very quickly when he finds that rushing lane. But as you and I were arguing pre-show, I really love these guys that have good body control and bounce and barrel their way forward. He just finds a way to keep rolling. That stuff is super valuable. It's stuff that you don't almost think about when you're watching a game from the broadcast view, but when you're putting together a roster and you have a running back, if you steal a yard every couple plays or 2 yards every couple plays, that's how you score touchdowns. That's how you get first downs. It's so simple, the formula to creating yards in the NFL. Any that you can get in any area is going to be valuable. But to just sum up GT before I get your thoughts, really phenomenal athlete. He is so shifty. He is so hard to keep up with. And most importantly, the vision is so good. Yeah. So he is going to probably be RB2 for me, right behind Ollie Gordon with a very similar grade.
Imagine having this kid at RB2. Could never be me, actually. Actually couldn't be me. Joe, this kid, built to the grounds, has really good contact balance, can break through a lot of arm tackles. You're correct that he he has that forward body lean where he's able to recapture balance and create extra yardage after contact. He does all that stuff really well. The vision, feel for space, and ability to make dudes miss on the first, second, and third levels is elite. Like, he has an elite level here. He has, it almost at times feels like he has eyes in the side and in the back of his head, man, because he just has this weird, this rare feel in space to make guys miss that I think is just superb. And then we talked about the passing game. This kid's one of the best. This guy might be the best pass receiving running back in the 2025 NFL draft. He has a very smooth way of, in the screen game, being to evaluate space a ton. He's comfortable catching the football. He doesn't fight it. I would like his pass blocking to take a step forward. I thought there were flashes of solid in pass blocking in 2023, but as a younger running back, it is one of those cases of just need to get better. Like, you just need more practice at it, right? Because he was used more as an outlet receiver and just a receiver in general than a guy that was going to stay in and block in extra protection. But man, I just think that this style wins in the NFL today. Like, I really do. I think that this style of short area explosiveness, vision, feel for space, comfort catching the football, that's just an all-around profile that gets me super, super excited. So I am in on this kid, man. I have a borderline first-round grade. I have a very high second-round grade on Ashton Jeanty. Yep. I think he is a plus starter in the NFL very early on in his career. And if you told me 4 or 5 years from today that he's one of the best all-purpose backs in the NFL or best all-around running backs in the NFL, I would believe you. I think he has that type of upside to his game.
I have like a mid-second on him. So very like right. I have a 7.7 is my grade on our scale. So a 7.9 to a 7.5 is early to mid second. So I've got that mid-second 7.7 there. What do you have on the 7.9?
I have a 7.9. As high as you can get without being a true late first round grade. So, yep.
Ollie Gordon's a 7.9 for me, and Jeanty's at 7.7. But yeah, I think you do paint a really good picture here that maybe he is one of the tendency breakers, if you will, where he does sneak his way into the back end of the first round. The impact is very tangible. I'm trying to think like comp wise though. I've been like really trying to rack my brain here of like who fits this profile. Who do you think?
Chris Carson was a guy that I thought of a lot that played with the Seahawks. He's a better receiver than Chris Carson was. Like, Chris Carson was not much of a receiver coming out of Oklahoma State and wasn't really for Seahawks, but the body type, physicality, short area explosiveness, second effort running does remind me a lot stylistically of Chris Carson. And then if you look at Chris Carson's athletic profile, he tested a lot better than people probably remember of him, right? So I think the running style, body type, he's shorter than Chris Carson, but I just think the play style is very similar there. But then he has that pass receiving game, which I think kind of separates him if we're talking about a draft prospect, right? Like, Chris Carson gave you nothing in the passing game for the Seattle Seahawks, really. He was just a early down runner. I think that's what makes this kid such an all-around threat, is that he has a unique feel in the passing game as well. So all in on him, man. All in.
Two great prospects. Let us know what you think in the comments. Hit the subscribe button at Joe DeLeone at Rising Draft. 5-star review wherever you tune in, and we will talk to you folks later. BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts.